The plane crash that killed a rising star in the world of music and film. Reaction today after Aaliyah and 8 others were killed when their plane went down.
Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciated, truly is. Before we get started, let me give you my usual disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next, if you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. Really helps me out and I really appreciate it. So today we are talking about R&B princess Aaliyah. She's recently come back into headlines because some new information surrounding her death has come out. So we're going to talk about her. Aaliyah Dana Horton, whose name means the highest, most exalted one, was born on January 16th, 1979 in Brooklyn, New York, to parents Michael and Diane. She had one sibling, a brother named Rashad. Her father was a warehouse worker and her mother was a homemaker. Her mother would enroll Aaliyah in voice lessons at a very early age, and she would start making a name for herself by singing in weddings, in the church choir, and at charity events. Her mother was a vocalist, so it made sense that she would see her daughter's talent at a very young age. Her uncle, Barry Hankerson, who is her mother's brother, remember that, was an entertainment lawyer who was married to the legendary Gladys Knight. When she was just 5 years old, Aaliyah's family moved her to a beautiful home in Detroit, Michigan. Her mother decided that it would be best for Aaliyah to drop her surname to just be Aaliyah. She auditioned for Star Search at the age of 10. At the age of 11, Aaliyah and her uncle would often travel to New York to audition for commercials and roles in sitcoms such as Family Matters. She also auditioned for the Detroit High School for the Fine and Performing Arts, where she sang Ave Maria in its entirety in Italian. School was very important to Aaliyah, and she managed to maintain a 4.0 GPA throughout. When she reflected back on her school career, she once said, quote, "I always wanted to maintain that even in high school when I first started to travel. I wanted to keep that 4.0. Being in the industry, I don't want kids to think I can just sing and forget about school. I think it's very important to have an education and even more important to have something to fall back on." End quote. It was Aaliyah's plan that if her music career hadn't taken off like it did and like it would have continued to take off, her backup plan would be to teach music history or to open her own school to teach music history and drama. At the age of 12, Aaliyah was signed to Black Hawk Records. At the age of 14, she was introduced to R. Kelly. He would become Aaliyah's mentor, songwriter, and lead producer on her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. Court records show that R. Kelly and Aaliyah were illegally married in 1994 when she was 15 and he was 27 by using a fake marriage license. The marriage would quickly be annulled about a year later by Aaliyah's parents, and after that, both Aaliyah and R. Kelly never really admitted to it. In the docuseries Surviving R. Kelly, a former backup singer claims that he saw R. Kelly and Aaliyah having sex on a tour bus when she was just 15 years old. Okay. Her mother, Diane Horton, vehemently denies this claim, stating that she and her husband were always on tour with her and they were with her everywhere she went. Going on to say that she refuses to let someone ruin her daughter's name by a bunch of lies. R. Kelly's former tour manager testified that he personally bribed a government official to change Aaliyah's age and give him a fake marriage license. This is in court records. This is not even like allegedly at this point. It's legit. It's reported that the reason for this was so that he could legally authorize an abortion for Aaliyah. R. Kelly's former lover has come out to say that the reason the two got married in the first place was because Aaliyah got pregnant and Kelly wanted to, save his skin, basically. She then said that when R. Kelly was staying at Aaliyah's home in Detroit, he would wait until Aaliyah was asleep. Then he would have sexual relations with her mother on the couch. That's quite an accusation to put out there. And I would truly hope that if you're going to say something like that about a mother of a deceased child, that you have hardcore facts. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it happened. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I don't know. I'm just saying if you're going to put a claim out there, you better have evidence. It's the right thing to do. In the summer of 2000, 21-year-old Aaliyah would meet 29-year-old record executive Damon Dash at a basketball game. The two shared the same accountant, a guy named Barry Clareberg, who would introduce them at Damon Dash's request. Months later, they were introduced again through a friend of Dash's named Nathan Adcock. They would end up attending P. Diddy's 4th of July party that he was throwing with then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, and the rest is pretty much history. They were in love, they were inseparable, and they had plans to wed. He has even come out to say that prior to dating Beyonce, Jay-Z was infatuated with Aaliyah. And I mean, how could you not? This girl was beautiful. Not only was she beautiful, she was very intelligent, and she was very talented. August 25th, 2001. Aaliyah and her team wrap up filming for the music video Rock the Boat. The weather in the Bahamas that day was absolutely beautiful, and the crew chartered a plane to take them from Marsh Harbor in Abaco Islands, the Bahamas, to Miami, Florida. A now man named Kingsley Russell was 13 at the time when he met and hung out with Aaliyah. His family ran a taxi business in the Abaco Islands, and it was his stepmother who drove Aaliyah and her crew to the airport that fateful day. He says that when Aaliyah saw the plane she was supposed to take back to the United States, she didn't want to get on it. Aaliyah had a fear of flying to begin with. Damon Dash says this in interviews. And her family claims that she would never have gone on that plane willingly. Not only that, Kingsley Russell says that he witnessed Aaliyah go and sit in the car claiming she had a headache, saying that she did not want to get on this plane. While she was in the car, her crew was fighting with the pilot. He says not long after that, someone from her team handed her a pill to take, and she was in a very deep sleep very shortly after. To be fair, nobody knows what the pill was that was given to her, and the pill that she took willingly. What is concerning is that Aaliyah was unconscious when it was time to board the plane, and she had to be carried onto the plane. Onto a plane she didn't want to get on to begin with. It is also alleged by Aaliyah's boyfriend at the time, Damon Dash, that Lenny Kravitz offered them a private plane to send them home in, but it was taken by Hype Williams, leaving the plane that crashed Aaliyah's only way to get home that day. This is why people are suggesting that Aaliyah's death may have been a murder, and many fans actually want to see Aaliyah get justice in 2023. Her death would quickly become overshadowed, first by the death of Princess Diana, who passed away the same day as Aaliyah's funeral, and then by September 11th. All right, so let's talk about the pilot who was flying the plane that day. His name was Luis Morales III, and August 25th, 2001 was his first official day working for Black Hawk International Airlines. There was supposed to be 8 passengers and the pilot, Luis, on the plane that day. Aaliyah, her hairstylist, Anthony Dodd, her hairstylist, Eric Foreman, Scott Gallen, who was Aaliyah's bodyguard, and initially survived the crash. And paramedics actually said that in his final moments, he was worried about Aaliyah's well-being. Aaliyah's manager, Keith Wallace, production manager, Gina Smith, Virgin Records representative, Douglas Kratz, and makeup artist, Christopher Maldonado, who was actually filling in for Aaliyah's regular makeup artist. The plane that was chartered that day was a Cessna 402B, and not only was Morales not qualified to fly that type of plane, but there was one more passenger than the plane allowed for. To be fair, the pilot was heard telling them that it was too much weight to have a safe flight, and that Aaliyah's team was heard arguing with him that they had to get back to Miami, Florida by that night. This is the only pass that I will give the pilot or the airlines responsible for what happened that day, because everything else is all sorts of fucked up. In the years before the crash, Black Hawk Airlines was cited 3 times for violations. In 1998, they were fined $1,500 for violating safety rules in U.S. airspace. In 1999, they received a warning for not drug testing their employees, and after the crash, they found that the pilot had cocaine and alcohol in his system. And in 2000, the company was cited for failing to comply with maintenance standards. Morales got his pilot license 1 year before the crash, which isn't such a big deal because, let's face it, all pilots start out as beginners. This is what it is. His job at Black Hawk was his second attempt to work as a commercial pilot since getting his license, and he was hired 2 days before the crash took place. On the other hand, what is a big deal is the fact that he was unauthorized to fly the Cessna for Black Hawk. He falsely obtained his FAA license by showing logs of hundreds of flight hours that he falsified. The fact that he allowed the plane to carry one extra passenger, be 700 pounds over the weight limit, and have the center of gravity too far back in the aircraft. He even had trouble starting the Cessna, and very shortly after taking off, the plane began pitching down until it finally crashed at the end of the runway and burst into flames immediately. Paramedics have come out to say that Aaliyah was 20 feet away from the plane, still unconscious and still strapped into her seat. It is believed that Aaliyah was unconscious the entire time and she never knew what hit her. Her cause of death was from severe burns and strikes to the skull. Okay, so what is it that doesn't add up? Leading people to believe this may have been premeditated murder. Because that's a huge accusation, right? Okay. For starters, why is there no footage of Aaliyah at the airport that day? And if there is footage, why was it never released? I don't believe that there were no paparazzi around trying to get shots of Aaliyah. The underwater scenes in Rock the Boat were shot in Miami, Florida. Why didn't they just finish the video in Miami? Granted, Bahamas is beautiful. It is. It's a beautiful place. But Miami, Florida has a lot of beautiful places. They have a lot of beautiful beaches. Why did her producer, Hype Williams, feel the need to spend the extra money taking the crew and the equipment to the Bahamas last minute? Did he do this to get Aaliyah there without her mother, father, or brother? Hype Williams was also with Lisa Left Eye Lopez in Honduras when she passed away in her car crash. Could it be a coincidence? Yeah, it can. It could. They finished the video footage 1 day earlier than expected, which is apparently why they ended up with the Cessna. Hype Williams decided to stay back, saying that he had more footage to film. And we also know that Lenny Kravitz sent Aaliyah the private plane that was taken by Hype. How did Lenny Kravitz get involved in this situation to begin with? And why didn't Aaliyah get the plane that was meant for her? Why didn't you send Aaliyah, all the other passengers, and all this equipment on Lenny Kravitz's plane, and the people that stayed back take the plane that was chartered for them for the next day? I don't know. That's not all. 5 days before her passing, Uncle Barry went down to a New York courthouse to get papers stating that if something happened to Aaliyah, that neither him nor his company, Background Records, would be responsible. There's footage of Aaliyah's stage manager screaming they killed her.
The day she died, when David danced that morning, took Continental. That morning, her mom took Continental. And Ike Williams, who rented that bullshit ass, they put her on a fucking property. I did every single ride show that a man did the last 14 months of her life. And I didn't do her business. If I was there, I fronted the niggas on her a few days before. They killed her. And that's what I've been saying. They killed her.
And after her death, Uncle Barry received $90 million in a wrongful death lawsuit regarding Aaliyah. And the person that comes out to talk about this, the way he refers to Aaliyah's passing it's not right. It's sickening.
Aaliyah dies. I was with Barry when Aaliyah died for a wrongful death. He got paid $90 million for her death. Am I supposed to say that on TV? For $90 million for her death.
Was that just for his rights or whatever he owned?
What she would have been able to make if she hadn't have died.
Oh, okay. There was a lot of lawsuits.
I guess,
okay.
But that was the settlement. I wasn't in. I was there when we went over to the. He got $90 million. He wouldn't stayed at the L'Hermitage Hotel. We ate good, and straight in deep mourning, right?
Why was Uncle Barry entitled to $90 million in his niece Aaliyah's death? Okay, well, if you ask me, he wasn't. But the $90 million is the estimated amount of money that Uncle Barry would have made had Aaliyah not passed. There's also conspiracy theories out there. Like, I came across a few theories. One theory was that they killed off Aaliyah so that because Beyonce wouldn't be as big as she was if Aaliyah was still alive. Like, it's crazy. But worse than that, Uncle Barry's company put in an agreement on August 20th, 2001 that neither he nor his company shall be liable for any loss or damage in connection with the production of the video, except to the extent arising out of artist, being Aaliyah, and or company, being Background Records, negligence or willful misconduct. So it seems like they put this contract in before production in Bahamas even started. Why would you do that? It seems strange. Her parents also received money after Aaliyah's death, and why shouldn't they, right? Being that Aaliyah has no children, she has no husband, her parents were absolutely entitled to her money. But her uncle, that's a stretch for me if I'm being honest. I want to hear what you guys think, so please let me know in the comments. If you're still here, thank you. I love you and appreciate you so very much. Please leave me a like and a comment. Please subscribe if you haven't yet and you feel so inclined to. And until next time, stay safe out there.